Hello and welcome to Antique Needleworkers. My name is Shellie and this is my channel about cross stitch and all my crafty endeavors, and I'm so glad you've joined me here today. Well, today is a special edition Flosstube. It is video number 2 of the Grumpy Susan quilt along video that I'm doing in partnership with Kari at Tiger Lily Designs. If you have found yourself here and you don't know what I'm talking about, Kari, my best friend, and I, she is Tiger Lily Designs and I am Antique Needleworker, and we have joined together and we are doing an English paper piecing quilt along that we have called the Grumpy Susan cowl. So why did we name it that? Well, if you're new here, Kari had gone to the Pacific Northwest to visit her family and was gifted her great-great-grandmother Susan's 2 of her quilts. And one of them happened to be a grandmother's flower garden. And we were so inspired by it that we wanted to make one ourselves. And so if you have not already seen it, I will link it below, but Kari did video number 1 where she shared all of the requirements, the fabric requirements, and told you all the things so that you could get ready with your fabric. And she also has a PDF download, which I will put a link to her Patreon here. You can join her Patreon for free to get that download, and you can get started. But today's video is the follow-up to video number 1, and today I'm here and I'm going to teach you 3 things today, and you by the end of this will be stitching on your grandmother's flower garden quilt as long as you've got your supplies. But what I'm going to teach you today are some cutting techniques, and there are several cutting techniques that I'm going to teach you. I am going to teach you how to mount your fabric onto your paper pieces. As well, I am going to teach you how to sew them together. And all wrapped inside of there, I'm going to give you all my tips and tricks. I'm going to show you some of my favorite things that I like to have when I'm English paper piecing. I may not use them all on this particular project, but you know, they're Shellie's favorite things. And so I am going to show you those. I'm going to show you an array of different tools so that maybe you don't have the exact tool that I do to cut things out, but I'm going to give you options. I'm going to show you several ways to do that. So you could cut your fabric out and get prepared from everything from a pair of scissors all the way up to a die cutting machine. And I'm just not going to leave any rock unturned. And so when we're done with this video today, you will be able to cut your fabric, mount your fabric onto your pieces, and get to sewing and join right along in all the fun. So with that being said, I'm going to take us over to the cutting table. Yeah, I'm at the cutting table today, and I'm going to begin to show you how to get started. So let's get started. Okay, friends. Well, this is what a grandmother's flower garden quilt square looks like. And the way that you accomplish this is through English paper piecing, or at least that's how Kari and I will be doing that. So what is it that you need to get started to do this? Well, you need some paper pieces, and you'll need some fabric, and you're going to need some thread, possibly glue if that's how you choose to mount. You'll need some needles. You definitely are going to need a threader, and your choice of threader will be your choice of threader. You will need an item to cut your fabric out with, and there's multiple things that you can do that with, and I will show you that. You will need a template if you're going to be cutting your fabric with a rotary cutter or with scissors. You'll need a template of some type. And yeah, that's pretty much what you need to get going. Now, there's some other things that are going to come along that I'm going to show you that are going to make your life easier to accomplish this English paper piecing as we go. So let's flip over the block. As you can see, each the center is not got the papers in it, but each of these blocks has been mounted, the fabric's been mounted onto these papers right here. And this is what that looks like prior to it being sewn together, okay? And so I have glue basted this onto this square. This square of paper is measured, you need 1.5 inch hexagons. Now, there has been a little confusion because there's different numbers. And so I've had to field, and so has Kari, a lot of questions. The paper is 1.5 inches. And how do you measure that? You measure this section right here. If you take this right here, this is a 1.5 inch hexagon, because you see that flat end goes 1.5 inches. But you're going to need some seam allowance, won't you? So here's a piece of fabric, but I have cut these at 2 inches. Do you see that? Because when you flip this over and you put this, do you see? So your fabric is cut at 2 inches, but your template to mount your paper piece, this paper piece, is 1.5 inch hexie. Okay, so, all right, so those are some of the things that you're going to need so that you can accomplish to get this and make tons and tons and tons of them and put them together to make this. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is, these are already pre-cut, and there are going to be a million links in the description box. If you have not got your supplies yet, I will put multiple links for where you can purchase all kind of things. So anyhow, so the first thing you're going to make sure you need is that you got fabric that you like and your papers. And then what we need to do is, the first thing we need to do is we need to cut our fabric. So let's move on, and I am going to begin to show you how to cut these. There are multiple ways. If you don't have a rotary cutter, that's okay, because a pair of scissors will do. And there's other ways to cut as well that I'm going to show you. If you don't have a template like this, I can show you how to cut these without an octagon template. So let's move on, and I'm going to clear the table and we'll start cutting some fabric. Okay, friends, let's get to cutting. First things first, I want to show you, I have this little pouch. I actually made this for myself a long time ago. And inside of it, I like to keep some of my supplies. This is a sew line glue pen, some glue stick replacements, a pair of scissors. I've shown you that I like sometimes to have a rubber finger so that I can pull my needle better. So I keep that in there. But what's important right now is in this little pocket, I have a nest of templates. And so what I'm going to use today is this 2-inch template to cut our hexagons. Now, as I said, I'm going to show you some of my favorite things along the way, one of which is my Sue Daly turntable. This is a cutting table, and I can throw this in my bag if I'm going to be away from the house, and I can easily cut and turn because being able to turn is really, really, really a great feature. When I'm in the studio, this is my turning mat. This is an Alpha turning mat, and that's what I'm going to use right now to show you how to cut. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to cut some strips. I have just taken a fat quarter and folded it in half, and I've given it a nice clean edge over here. Let me line this up really good, and I'm going to be using a 4-inch ruler. And I'm just going to cut myself a 4-inch strip. Okay, so oops, I didn't get all the way through. See, this is in real time. This is real time happenings. Okay, so I have a 4-inch strip and it's doubled up. Okay, let me grab another one of my rotary cutters that possibly has a newer blade. Don't want to have any of those mishaps while we're filming. Okay, so now you're just simply going to place your template and you're going to cut. And like I said, the turntable really comes in handy, doesn't it? Okay, so here we go. We have now cut 2 of these. Now, I will say that I am prone to fold up more than 2. I will hand cut out sometimes 4 or 6 layers, depending on how new my blade is. And that makes life so simple. But let's just say that you perhaps do not have a rotary cutter. Well, that does not take you out of the game here. All you have to do is lay your template down. Let me grab a pencil. I had a pencil right here. Let me grab a pencil over here. And all you simply do is make your marks. Okay, so now I've made my marks. I'll grab a pair of scissors, and I'm still 2 deep. I have 2, because this is 2 layers. So if you don't have a rotary cutter, that's okay. You can cut out by hand with a pair of scissors. Now let me tell you something. Don't get too caught up in the minutia of perfectionism. Of course, these came out absolutely dead on. These may have a little sharper. See, I could have gone a little bit more like this. I must have gone off with my pencil. Okay, but here's the deal. When you're mounting it, the perfection is going to come after. See, you've got to mount it on here. So don't get all hung up on perfect edges. If you cut and it's a little off, can you see? This is your seam allowance. Always try to do your very best work. But in the meantime, you can cut with scissors and you can cut with a rotary cutter. But let's say that you don't have this template and it's not going to work for you to get one. Let me show you another method to cut a hexie, because if you're a quilter, you just may have another template. Now I'm going to cut a strip that's 3 3/4 inches. Now that measurement is different than the very first strip, which was 4 inches, but it does make a difference. So cut yourself a 3 3/4 inch strip. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to show you something magical. If you take your strip and you fold it in half like this, let's finger press it. Okay. Finger press, finger press, finger press. You and your quilting supplies may have a 60-degree ruler that looks like this. Okay. Now, my 60-degree ruler has lines in it, but it started at 2 inches, and I need the line to be at 1 inch there. So I wasn't buying a new template. I just I actually sat it down, and here is the 2 inch line, and I put a piece of painter's tape right at the 1 inch line. So see, I didn't have a piece of equipment, and I made what I had work. So you can make do. Okay, so we're going to fold this in half, finger press it, okay? And now if you take this 60-degree ruler and you lay the 1 inch line, we want to make sure that the fabric on this side is enough to catch all the way down. But we're going to come here and we're going to cut like that. And we're going to cut like this, hoping that the blade's working. Okay. And when we take that away, voila, you have a hexagon. Do you see that? Isn't that magical? So if you don't have a hexagon template and you don't want to purchase another piece of equipment and you have a 60-degree ruler, you can come right here and see, this will help you out too. See, we're just going to put this where this line is congruent with the top of this. Make sure you have fabric to the side. And again, cut, cut, pull away, and voila, you have a hexagon. And look, looks just like the one that I cut with the template, doesn't it? So that is another method, but remember, your strip needs to be 3 3/4 inches, and then fold it in half, finger press it, bring that line right up to the edge there. Well, let me pull this over and make sure you have fabric on both sides, and you can go here and you can go here, and voila, you have a hexagon. So that is method number 3. So we can use a template, and we can cut with a rotary cutter. We can use a template and a pencil, and we can use our scissors, or we can cut a strip and use a 60-degree ruler and fold that in half, and we can do the whole same thing. So do you see, we have acquired and accomplished all of these squares. But what if you're like me and you have a cutting machine? Well, we can head over to my Big Shot Pro. I do have the big unit. They make different units, and I will just tell you this much. The templates or the dies are a little harder to find than they used to be. A lot of people used to be very, very much into Stamp It Up and paper crafting and things like that. And back when they came out with the Big Shot, I bought a regular sized one, but then I moved on and bought the Pro because I could buy dies that would cut out full entire quilt blocks. But I purchased almost I think every quilting one that they had, and they have a template and a die that does a 2-inch cutout, and that is how we cut Kari's and my hexagons, and it's 1,062 hexagons per quilt. So, you know, that was 2,000 what plus blocks, and we were able to do it. We actually broke my die and I had to get another one. But in the meantime, let's head over to the Big Shot and I will show you that and show you another cutting method. So in case you have one of those, or you have the availability to buy a die to go with an existing machine, I'll show you how to do that. Here we are at the Big Shot. This is a Big Shot Pro die cutting machine. You put your die, look at this, you can see how many, I mean, this is a top, you put this on top of this in the fabric so that it has something to go through. So you go like this and you cut it. That's what happened after Kari and I cut about 2,200 something hexagons. As a matter of fact, this, you can see this, I had this and I'd used it over the years, but we did it in and bent this one. So I had to purchase a brand new one. So I did, and this is the new die. And what you do, I'm going to bring this back because I like to go right to left. Okay, so what you do, oh, one moment, please. I forgot my Sorry about that. I walked over here and didn't bring the fabric. I have 2 separate pieces of fabric. I have cut these into 4-inch strips. Of course, they're doubled because I cut my fat quarter. I folded it over and made it double. You can actually, on these die cutting machines, cut through 8 layers. So I'm going to take my 4-inch strips that are folded in half, and I'm going to fold them in half one more time. I'm going to lay this on the cutter. I'm going to lay my sheet over top of it, and then all I do, I go a little overboard, let me tell you. I go across once, I go across twice, 3 times, and back. Now, let me tell you, it cut it the first time, but just to make sure, that's just my rhythm. And then you come here and voila, there are 8 layers, which equals 16. Is that 16? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it's 8. Sorry. What was I thinking? 16? So I cut out 8 blocks. Why did I say 16? I'm crazy. Okay, so wasn't that magical? So these things are pretty amazing. Now, like I said, you can still buy a Big Shot machine. I can put a link into the description box, but I'm not going to put this one. This one's very expensive because it's the Pro machine and it's very, very big. And so I will put a link for the regular Big Shot to which this will fit. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. These are very hard to find now. And I had to find mine on the secondary market on eBay. I believe I found the first one that I found on Amazon back in the day, but you know, they're far and few between there. So I'll see about finding some links, but I will put a Big Shot, a regular size, that Big Shot could sit right here, but it will take these size dies. So if you're interested in that, I will find some links for you, but it's a wonderful tool. But listen to me, if you're a Cricut person, my daughter and daughter-in-law are absolutely crazy Cricut girls, and I know that a Cricut will cut fabric, and there's the AntiqueQuilt and all kind of things like that. You don't need, though, to go and buy these expensive pieces of equipment, but I did want to show that because there are people that may have the Big Shot, maybe not the Pro, and they could possibly find this. I've had several people contact me, and I've given links to several. I've had to look up and find them just like you, just to show you that there are all kind of ways that you can cut out your fabric. Okay, so now we've gone through all of that. Let's go back to the table now and let's mount some fabric onto the hexagon papers. And I'm going to show you 2 ways to do that, and that way we can get started. Okay, here we are back at the mat. I did want to go over one more thing about cutting with the 60-degree ruler. As I said, I know that we're making 2-inch hexagons, but we have to go across at the 1-inch line. That doesn't mean it's going to produce that. It's the width of this 60-degree. When you cut it there, it produces an edge that's 2 inches. Do you see that? But you have to have it at the 1-inch line on your ruler. I am going to have a link for a ruler, but the one I will put will have the 1-inch line there for you. So 3 3/4 inch strip, fold it in half. And another thing that's important, make sure that your folded edge is on the bottom if you choose to do this method. So fold your fabric, the cut edge is at the top, the folded is at the bottom. Lay the ruler to where the 1-inch line comes right there to the top of the fabric. Make sure you have fabric to the side, cut, and this is what you will get. Okay, I just wanted to reiterate that. I didn't think that I hit that home well enough. Another thing I want to show you is a few of my favorite things. You saw me using this larger rotary cutter. In my go bag, I have this small cutter, okay? And as well, I, at Christmas time, got this in my Jenny Doan from Missouri Star Quilt Company's Favorite Things Advent box. This neat little kit. I actually had never seen one of these, but watch this. This is a miniature rotary cutter. Is that not neat? And so this is something that I carry in my go bag. I can press on one side, but I can cut, and it's very small. Like I said, I'll put links to all these things, but you know, here's a little tiny one. I don't know if I can find this mini folding on the go rotary cutter. I believe the blade is the same exact size as this Fisker's cutter, but look at the difference, and you can just put it in here. There's a little thimble in case you need a thimble, and it fits just perfectly. A little pair of snips and a seam ripper. If I can find a link for this little kit, I will put one in the description box for you, as well as for the mini rotary cutting pressing mat. But isn't this great? This is so wonderful. And you will know if you saw back when in the spring, or no, in the fall, when I went to Farm Girl Dry Goods, I taught Kari to hand piece. Not English paper piece, but to literally hand piece. And to have this little cutting mat is just it's everything, because you can press on one side, you can cut on the other, and this is one of Shellie's favorite things. So, but before I had this has always been in my go hand quilting bag. So those are some favorite things that make life really simple, in case you were looking for some cool gadgets. Got to share that with my friends. Okay, so let's mount some squares, or some hexagons. Okay, so this is what your template's going to look like. Some, though, come and, look, I've already taken some out. You can see where I've unglued it. Okay, some come and they don't have a hole in the center. If yours does not have one and you are going to sew baste it, you don't have to, but it just get yourself a hole popper and pop a hole. It doesn't matter where you pop the hole, but when you sew baste it, you can cram something in there like a crochet hook, or, you know, an unsharpened pencil or something, and then you can just slip them out. And so, but it's not necessary, but, you know, just trying to show you some things that make life a little easier. Okay, so let's go over the first way that we're going to mount fabric. The very center of my first flower, let's go back over what this looks like. The center, I am doing all of my centers in reds, and these are my reds. I chose 2 different reds. So I'm going to use the striped red because this one's a gingham red. And then all of my first row is this buttery vintage yellow. And so I'm going to need some of those. And so I'll put this to the side, but so you see in conjunction to what we're talking about. So let's mount the center hexagon. So the way I'm going to show you first is glue basting. Now, I showed you just a second ago, this is a Sue Daly Sew Line glue pen. These are fantastic. They are absolutely excellent. Let me show you the refills again. Once you're done with the glue, you roll it all the way up, and then you pull it out, and then you just put another one. You put this on there and cram it down, and it'll pull it down out of there when you retract it, and you have glue. This is wonderful and very easy to use, but the expense can become expensive because you'll use a lot of glue. Let me tell you, this any type of washable glue, I get these on Amazon. This is a washable, acid-free, all-purpose white glue sticks. This was next to nothing for this, and you know, they come like this, and they're on. And I buy them by the box. I actually bought 4 boxes recently. But so this glue stick, or just anything that you get at the store, as long as it's a washable glue, it works the same as this. So don't feel confined. This is a wonderful luxury, but this will do the trick just fine. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this. Some people like to put a little glue on the center and then stick it on there. And you want to try to get it centered. So you can see that I have my seam allowance very nice there. Now, one of the things that when I started English paper piecing, I thread basted mine. And then when I saw this glue method, it was revolutionary. But I, like many other English paper piecing beginners, I put way too much glue. And you will hear many, many people talk about how, you know, don't glue too much, don't glue too much, don't glue too much. Really, don't glue too much. And I'm going to tell you something. Don't get up here close, okay? Let's go down here where your seam allowance is going to be and put a little bit of glue. And then you're going to lay that down like that, okay? So you've got your first one glued, okay? I like to put a little tack of glue there and then come here. And I want to tell you something. Okay, I didn't have it up far enough for where that seam allowance was. Okay, I want to tell you something. Don't wrench this fabric around this thing and make it tight as blue blazes. That's not going to be helpful for the sewing process. Let me show you one that I've already done. You see, it's nice and easy. You can get to the fabric without going through the paper, and you don't want it super tight. Unfortunately, when I began, I would rip that fabric around that hexagon and strangle it down on there, and it made for uncomfortable sewing. So I'm going to continue around. Just a little tiny bit of glue, a little tiny bit of glue, and then just go around. This makes life so simple. And just a little bit. You really don't need a lot. But I do find personally my preference is to make sure I get a little on that fabric right there. and it helps those stay down better. Okay, so we have now glue basted our center. Okay, so now let's do that again, and I'll show you that with a sew line pen. Let me do one of my yellow hexagons. So it's not necessary to go here, but I will go there for you, because if, you know, it might make you feel more comfortable to make sure. But so put a little glue right there. Hold it down, a little nip here, and then go right there. But trying not to be all up in the edge of it, because you don't want your fabric to just be clinging on to there for dear life. You just want them to be on there and be able to sew as easy as pie. Okay. Okay, so now I have another one mounted, and you see I haven't strangled it onto my, my paper. Okay, now that is one way to mount your fabric onto your papers, but there is another way, and it's the original way, and that is to thread baste it. Okay, so how do we thread baste? Let me grab a good one here. Okay, now I've been asked already what type of thread. You can use just old-fashioned Coats and Clark all-purpose. This is 50 weight quilters cotton that I get, which is from Connecting Threads. It's their essentials, very affordable. I use this in my machines. And so, but one of the tools that I find to be the most luxurious, wonderful thing is my needle threader. Now, I made this too. This was all made by hand, no machine. And this is my needle book, and I have my leather thimble in case I need that for my finger. And these are my English paper piecing Milliners needles. Now, you can get there are lots of brands. I have two favorite, and that is the Sue Daly Milliners size 11 and the Sue Daly Milliners size 12, or 15, excuse me. These are as thin as a hair, and they just slide right through and make sewing so easy. But as well, this is from Gina Kimball's Foxglove Cottage. Now, her straw needles, size 11, they work very well as well. If you don't go with this, this is a wonderful threader. I will link every single thing. The Bluebird Threader is wonderful. I would suggest that if you're going to thread up, that you thread up multiple needles so that you're good to go. I'm going to grab a pair of glasses here so I can see really good. And let's see. Let's thread up a needle. I'll show you how to do that. I grabbed the wrong glasses. They were way too strong. Okay, so let's thread up a needle with the Bluebird. Okay, I'm going to thread up a straw needle size 11 from Foxglove. You can, you know what? You can't do a Foxglove with this. This is not small enough. So I'll do this one with the all-purpose. This, oops, I brought it back up with me. Okay, so you drop your needle in, and they have to be a round-eyed needle, not an oblong one. This has got a cutter on it. You bring the thread through like this and push the button. Happy day. Happy day. Look at that. So the whole of the Foxglove is too small to use the Bluebird. So, you know, these needles can be very, very, the holes can be just terribly fine, but a size 11 Sue Daily, let me get one of those out. I know that you can use a Bluebird Threader with it. And so I will use some of this. And you just, you know, seeing on camera, yeah, this is real life here. Okay, get that through. These are not tapestry needles, my friend. Oh, wait a minute. It's hard to see when you're trying to do all this stuff and all the lighting. And my little method that I use to thread my tapestry needles certainly does not work for this. Well, you know what? I'm just going to thread it on here and make my life much simpler. Oh, we didn't thread up. Doggone it. Okay, back to square one. I'm trying to do this in real time, but you know what? I'm not editing this out because you all want to know that the struggle is real. Okay. Well, you know what, friends? This is not working. Not on camera. So one more try, and if it's a no-go, I'm just going to move on. Okay. Okay. Well, I shredded my thread. Okay, we're moving on because we just want to know how to sew this together, not how to thread a needle. Okay, so the first thing what you want to do is you want to come down here, and if you lay your thread and you pinch it parallel with the needle and wrap it 1, 2, 3, and bring it around and pull it up and through, you will do a quilter's knot, okay? And what we're going to do is I'm going to take my piece and I'm going to fold down and I'm going to fold the corner. And it's going to look like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this 1 time, 2 times, okay? Now my method of sew basting is I go backwards. I go counterclockwise. It works best for me, because then I'm going to come to the next corner and I'm going to come in and up like this. And as I do you see it pulls that down and it lays across it nicely. Then I'm going to come to the next corner and I'm going to come in and out and I'm going to pull that like that. And I'm laying down very nicely. This is how our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers, they sew basted theirs. They would sit, I'm sure, at night and they would prep all their fabrics onto their hexagons, just like I'm showing you right now. Okay, and so I'm going to go in and out. Okay. And then I'll get to my last corner, right like this. And I'm going to go in and out, making sure I get the corner. And on this one, I'm going to go 1, go in and out, 2, and then I'm going to go right here again. And I'm going to bring it there, and then I'm going to come up and through so that it'll create a knot. And there you have it. And then I'm going to cut my thread, and you're sew basted on. That's as simple as that. And so you see, you have those nice, easy, not tight and super strict, so that you can move on and you can sew. Now we're going to use the same needle and the same thread to do our stitching. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll show you that quilter's knot again. Hold it parallel to your needle, wrap it 1, wrap it 2, wrap it 3, go like this, and then pull it up and through, and voila, there's your quilter's knot. Okay, so now we have gone through the 2 methods of mounting your fabric. We've glued and we have sew basted. Okay, so let me clean up the table because now we are ready to move on and we can sew together our blocks. Hey, here we are, and I've got us all set up to begin to sew. Now, while I'm here, I've set up several needles, so I'm ready. And I would encourage you, we have to make 18 of these. Now, Kari and I are both, we like to production line sew. What does that mean? That means that do all of this, do 18 of those, and then come back and do the next row. And that will take you for a while. And that way you have all of your first row, then come back and do all of your second rows, then come back and do all of your third rows, and so on and so forth. If that's not you and you're a one at a time girl, then you do you. I encourage that 1000%. But I, on the other hand, am a production person. Now, I think that I'm going to personally get a stack of these done. Our intention is we would like to try to do 1 of these a month. But I think I would like to put a little energy and get a stack of these so it makes the months that will come even quicker. But so anyhow, that is just an encouragement from Kari and myself both, that will make your life easier. Okay, so I'm all set up to begin my row, whether you're going to production sew or do 1 at a time. I would suggest that you at least glue up enough to get the center flower done. I did want to revisit the needles. Okay, the Milliners needles, the very thin needles that I told you about, you know, the thinner the better, because when you're going to go through this, you're not going to go through the paper, but you want to just slip through that little piece right there. And so when you're doing that, you want to make sure that your needle is thin. It will make for easier stitching. And so, but if you don't want to buy Milliners needles, that's totally okay too, because what you can do is get into your pack of needles. I would suggest that you try to find a thin needle. And I'm all about using what you have. So if you happen to have a pack of needles like this, if I was going to come in here, it seems to be the thinnest needle of the bunch. And so I would use it. This needle, if you look at this is pretty fat needle. That'd be difficult to not nip into the papers when you're sewing. So I would suggest that you just choose a thin needle, okay? And so this is a set of Bowen needles that I've got a couple of these. I think I might have got some in a sew sampler box and bought a second one because I liked them. But so that is just a tip. Okay, so how are we going to get started? First things first, we have to start with the center. And we're going to take these 2, you're going to take 1 of your petals to your center and you're going to hold it together. Now, I will say some people, they will clip theirs so that it stays in place, and that's a great way to do things. There are these little magnets called Sew Tights. I have several different kinds. Some of them are bars. There's an orange bar, a blue bar. There's a orange dot that's about this size. I did get this in a box. These are Sew Tights, and look, it sticks it together. And so they're together. I am the queen of old-fashioned. I just hold mine. So when I clip it, I feel like this gets in the way of my thread, but that might work fantastically for you, or maybe you could put it down there out of the way. But in the meantime, my process for stitching these together, we're going to take the two, we're going to put them right sides together. And what I like to do is go underneath my fabric. This is a thread basted one, so it's very easy to do this. See that? I went under it and came out my corner. But let's go to the other side in case you did a glue baste, because this is glue basted. See, it works just the same. And you're going to pull that out and you've hidden your knot. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to give it a little pinch here. And I need to put my glasses on 1 second, please. So sorry. You can't see me, but I am putting my glasses on. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to come right here, and you don't need to get deep into this fabric. Just come and catch a few threads of the fabric, bring that through. I'm a big proponent on all corners and ending spots. I like to get in there and do a second turn. Okay. And okay, then we're off to the races. So I'm going to work my way up. Some people sew from away from them. However you sew is your way of doing things. I sew towards myself. And so I'm going to come up just a little bit, and you don't have to have these micro tight in there, real super tight together. And all I'm going to do is bring it through. And oop, I got a little knot. Bring it through. Bring it through, and just work your way all the way up this hexagon. Okay, and then we'll add another petal when we get to the end, but I will show you how I do my ending method. And I want to tell you before we get there, while we're just sitting here together and I'm stitching with you, when you get to the end here and you want to finish where your thread is, you want to think about your stitch path. Now, what do I mean by that? It's going to be the way you stitch the next one. I like to try to keep going as much as I can. I want to sew as much as I can without cutting my thread. I really enjoy to stitch like that. And so just like when you're cross stitching and you're thinking, okay, so what is my thread path? What is my stitching path going to be? The same is going to be for this, because we're working with a shape, and at some point you're going to be at an end where you would have to possibly cut thread. But I'm going to teach you a trick. So I'm to the end, and I want to tell you, always tighten your end. We've got one stitch. Now I'm going to take another stitch, and some people will even put a little knot. So pull a third through and be done. Okay, so here I am. I am at a Y seam, right? Because I've sewn up this way. Look how nice that is. See how pretty that is? You just sewed one together. Okay, so, but I need to add another petal here. But if I go right sides together like this, and I sew from where my thread is, I would go this way and I'd have to cut thread. Let me teach you one of my tricks. One of the tricks that I like to do is I like to, let me go, how am I gonna, let me see. Okay, so I could, let me start, I'll bring it so I can start here. Okay, so how will I get there? I'm gonna travel this thread. I'm gonna go underneath here, onto the underneath. You may have to bring it up if your needle's not long enough, but I'm going to bring it through there. Okay, and then I'm just going to dip back down almost in the exact same spot and come out in the corner. you're going to use a little thread, but I would rather do that than cut thread. I have to rethread my needle really quick. One moment, please. I unthreaded myself. I have a habit when I'm filming tutorials of unthreading my needle. Isn't that a shame? But anyway, you got to see me use that fancy thing again. Okay, so here we are, and we have to add another petal. So I'm going to put right sides together, because if now my stitch path, I can go a long, long way, because once I stitch from here to here and flip this up, I'll flip it over and then come out there. Do you see what that little, I call this a pass through, where I took my thread from right here and I passed it between the fabric and I passed it through. Okay, let's stitch another one on here, and then I'll teach you how to handle these Y seams down here. So I'm going to do the very same thing I did before. I'm at a corner, and so I'm going to come through. Then I'm going to come through again. I'm a three girl. I like to get that nice secure corner. That way I have beautiful seams when I'm all done. And then I'm just going to stitch my way down into the cleavage down here, okay? So as I'm going down there, what did you think about that? That little pass-through trick is amazing, isn't it? Didn't have to cut, didn't have to retie, and it helps you just kind of keep on going, doesn't it? And yeah, I am using the size 11 Sue Daly Milliners needle here. I figured out why. I forgot. I completely forgot before I started to show you the reason why the foxglove needle would not thread in there is because it has an oval eye. So, but it was very, very tiny. I am going to link them for you, but really the Sue Daly needles are the very best milliners, and they really are what I use the most of. But so anyhow, so as I said, that you need to make sure it's a round eye in your needle. Okay, see how quickly this is? I mean, we're sitting here in real time stitching this together, and it is not going to take you a million years. It is so wonderful to take this. I don't have to read a pattern, nothing. And it's great for car work, mindless work, de-stressing. Okay, I've gotten down to the cleavage, and I'm getting to the end where this block and this block are going to end. And I'm still, although I'm going to continue on, I am going to do a 3-turn end, because I'm very, very particular myself. It's just my habit. Okay, so my 3rd turn is going to get to go through, and I'm put a little knot there. Okay, so now do you see why they call this a Y seam? Okay, how do we handle a Y seam? Well, I'm going to take it, and don't be afraid to manhandle these little papers. Okay, one of the things that you need to do when you're coming to a Y seam is make sure you go through all 3 corners. So I'm going to come right here, and I'm going to go in that corner like that. And then I'm going to turn here, and I'm going to go in this corner like that. And I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go through this corner again. So I have circled that seam. So when it's going to have a perfect Y seam, and there will be no hole. So do go around your seam like that. I hope that made sense. Now see, now I'm going to finish off to the end. So, okay, so I've gone around the block there, but I'm still going to go. I am just you don't have to do this way, but Shellie Fry likes to do a 3-turn start and end, because I want that to hold up. These corner seams are where all that wear and tear gets when the quilt is used. Okay, so I've done 3 turns, and now I'm going to continue on down to the end of my row. Isn't this fun? Oops. I absolutely love the slow stitching aspect of English paper piecing. I like the mindlessness of it, but I love the precision of this stitching because it is just absolutely pristine when it comes out the other side. I'm catching on that card on the corner. And you see, I didn't put a stranglehold on my fabric, so I can very easily, I keep getting caught. You know, it wouldn't happen if I wasn't filming, but I can very easily get a little bite of the fabric, just a few threads in, and just go on about my business there. And so, oh, I unthreaded again. See, I told you, if I'm on film, Shellie is a chronic unthreader. But you see, I didn't have to take or cut the thread. I just restuck it in there. That you just got to see that. I didn't even realize I was actually showing you a great tip there. Okay. And I love that sound of that needle pulling through there. Okay, so I've come to the end. I'm going to put my 3 turns in because it's my process. So let's go 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so again, do you see? We've got, look at those beautiful seams. And you're gonna, this English paper piecing makes you look like a rock star. Okay, so I'm going to need to figure out how I'm gonna get to this block. Okay, so where's my thread? My thread is here. So I'm gonna do a double pass through. I'm gonna come and, well, you know what? At this point, I will go ahead and cut thread. How about I do that? Okay, so let me re-knot up. I think I got a good go of it before I had to rethread. Okay, so then I will come here and I will start the process all over again, up through and hide it under that little knot in the seam allowance, and then do a 3 pass through. Not a pass through, a 3 turn corner. Okay, and then my 3rd, and then off to the races again, and just begin the process all over and continue until I have completely finished my petal all the way around. Now I'm going to stop the camera really quick, and I'm going to take you over here because I want to show you some things. But you now know how to get going, how to do a Y seam, how to do a pass through, and I think that you're going to do just fine. Like I said, with this one, okay, so I've got my first 3. I'll sew to the end. I will do a 3 turn and knot. Then I will turn it out. I will bring it over here. I'll go around the block, going and making sure I close the hole. I will then bend it down, and then I'll sew across there. And then I can do a pass through and go up to the corner and add another block, and so on and so forth. That's how you just continue on and on and on. But what about when you get to here? And you're so big. Okay, so I'm going to show you some things on how to handle your bigger block. When do you take your papers out, etc. So let me clean the table up and we'll come right back. I wanted to get on here really quick and tell you that in the last segment when I was thread basting the hexagon, I was not stitching through the paper. I was only picking up through the two corner pieces of fabric. Never send your needle through the template. Only send it through the thread. Not the thread, the fabric. And as you'll see when I show you how to stitch them together, I'm never ever going through the paper. I'm only going through the fabric, okay? So keep that in mind for when you're stitching. Do not take your stitches through the papers, only through the fabric layers, okay? Okay, friends, so we are back. And I want to talk about the papers. If you'll notice, I have the papers out here. It helps it be a little bit malleable and easier to handle. But you cannot take your papers out until you have got that hexagon completely surrounded with another hexagon. Okay, so I saved taking this layer out. Now mine are glue basted, but I will tell you, if you thread baste them, it's real easy to take a crochet hook and pop it up and out. It, like I said, but when you have glue basted, you got to peel back a little bit. Okay, and so you just peel back your edges. And when you do, you can stick something in that hole and very easily pull out your card. And then I just nicely put my seams back down. Now I can take this whole row out now because these are all encapsulated or surrounded with another hexie. Now these I cannot. I have to leave them in. And so I will just sit and go around. This is what I do when I get a block almost done, you know, to the point where I can remove it. And just pick those back. And this is another reason you don't need to strong arm these things with glue, because you got to pick it out eventually. And so if you're having a hard time, sometimes you can take your iron and steam it and hit the steam. And when you do, it'll loosen up that glue a little bit if you're having some trouble. Okay, so that is how to take out your papers. But, you know, you just saw me putting these together, but it might intimidate you the farther you get out. So I just thought that I would join you here, and I'll put a green block on. I'm not going to put the whole row on right this moment while we're on camera. But it's a perfect time to discuss as well with you what's coming next. When Kari films next, which won't be for a little bit because you have a lot to do to get to this point. But what I would say to you is, if you want to put some green on, only put it on one flower, and that is it. Please hear me when I say that, because the next video is going to be how to connect another block at the green row, because you don't need another green pathway. As a matter of fact, I have an antique grandmother's flower garden that I can use as an example right here, and I will show you. They usually call the green row the garden path. Okay, but do you see this square right here is connected to that square by the garden path, the green section, right? So if you mount all your flowers with green around it, you're going to have too much green. You have to connect that with one that has the green on it. Does that make sense to you? So if you are so inclined to go one at a time and to get yourself all the way to here, only do one flower with your green, because the next tutorial, Kari's going to show you how to connect 2 flowers with the garden trail of green. So I am just telling you, only put on 1 row, because you don't want to have all of that work and have to pick it out. So, but back to what I was saying a moment ago, you might be a little intimidated, you know, because it's getting kind of big. You notice it's a little more limber and less, you know, because when all the paper's in, it's really, really stiff. So this is where I took the papers out. So I'm going to choose this to be my starting point. And it's no different. The farther you get out, it doesn't matter how far you get out. Just take your block, just like you did when it was just the first 2. Put that needle up through the corner, just like I showed you before. And you've got to manhandle this a little bit because, you know, you've got a bigger block now. So I'm not going to do anything any differently. I'm going to line this up really good though, because I think I've got it not lined up so well. There we go. This is an instant where, as long as Shellie doesn't get it caught, it might be good to put that in there. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do a 3-turn corner. That's what I call it. 1, 2, and then 3. And on the 3rd one, straighten out my thread and make a little knot. And then work your way up. You know what? I took my glasses off again. Pardon me a million times over. And my other ones are across the room. All right, so again, we just standard operating procedures. Work your way up your block. I pinch my fingers so it helps me guide that needle. It's just, you know, you get your technique down. Once you start, you're just gonna do really, really, really well. I promise you. It does, the bigger the thing gets, it gets a little wonkadoodle as you're stitching it, and well, the way you hold it is what I mean. I've got that. See, I'm running into, see, I got that paper, that fabric on that white one is a little too tight. And so that just showed you in real time how it can be a bother to try to get through there. If you put your papers too tightly, your fabric too tightly up against your papers. And you, like I said, you don't want to stitch through the paper, just through the fabric. So be sure. Some people, when they've got their papers too tight, when they pull them out, they'll see it looks like little bite marks because the needle has nipped the paper. So you want to be certain to, like I said, you don't need to strong hold that fabric down to that paper form and choke it out, because that's not going to be helpful in the sewing process. It does not make your block any prettier, okay? I'm just telling you. So I'm down to the end. I'm going to do a 3-corner turn. 1, 2, and yes, when I'm stitching, I do count in my head. 1, 2, and I'm just counting out loud to you. But I do, it's funny, our habits, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to take this off, and then I'm going to show you a little trick. Okay, so I'm going to walk around the block with my needle, because I'm going to make sure I get in the corner here, and then I'm going to get in the corner over here. Okay. And then I'm going to come back around the corner over here. So you're just really securing that Y seam when you're doing that. And you can't go wrong with that. Okay, well, you just saw me do a little something, didn't you? Now watch, because there's so much going on here, sometimes when I'm way out in a project and it's this big and there's this many papers, I will hold it flat. Do you see how I'm doing that? I will hold it flat and stitch it in the flat, and it makes it a little more comfortable. I don't know that that is a kosher technique. I don't know if the EPP police will come and hunt me down, but I'm just telling you, when it gets big like this, sometimes it's more comfortable to hold it like this and take a little nip than it is to try to hold it like this and manhandle it. So you figure out what works for you. But that's a little Shellie trick there, that, you know, if it gets uncomfortable, sometimes just lay it down and do it in the flat. You know, what's it gonna hurt? The seam's not gonna look any differently on the opposite side. I'll show you my seam when I get to the other side, because sometimes it just feels awkward when you're holding the piece that has gotten so big, you see? And so, you know, when you're adding and you've got the big quilt in your lap, if it gets uncomfortable and hard on your hands, lay the section down. And like I said, no one taught me this. I've never read this. I probably could get some serious speculation from other English paper people, piecing people, but you know, it's my quilt, so it's my rules. And so this has inexplicably helped me get pressure off my hands, and also it has helped me feel more comfortable in my piecing when it's so large. And so that's just a little Shellie trick for you. And I'm going to get a little pair of scissors and I'm going to snip clear. And I'm going to put my needle up and I'm going to turn it around. Do you see any difference there? There's no difference. You see nothing any differently when I sewed it on the pinch, where it was like this, or where I sewed it like this in the flat. It looks exactly the same, and it's beautiful. And so if you get to a section and you're feeling uncomfortable in your hands, do try that. You know, it's not something that I've ever read, but yeah, it's helped me out in once things get nice and big. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera around and talk to you face to face now. Okay, so we've cut fabric, we've mounted fabric, and we have sewn our hexies together. I'm so excited because now I hope that I've instilled some confidence on how to cut, mount, and get going, and now you can start your grandmother's flower garden. I'm just so excited that I can't believe how many of you have just showed so much interest and are so excited to be stitching along. I hope through my fumbling, I conveyed everything that you needed to know. You know, I do want a disclaimer here. I'm not a professional quilter. I'm just someone just like you, and I am just sharing with you what I know. That's what my old lady friends taught me. You know, I talk about loving the little old ladies from my church. I've turned into the little old lady. So, but I'm just conveying to you what I know and sharing my love of these things. And Again, I'm not a professional quilt instructor. I'm not a professional quilter. I'm just a quilter. And anyone who puts needle and thread to fabric, whether it's by hand or by machine, you're a quilter too. And so I want to encourage you, you know, that's very important to me, is to build you up and give you confidence in the things that you're doing. And so let me just rest assured tell you, if you have put thread to needle and needle to fabric, you're a quilter too. And I am so excited because you are doing a method, the English paper piecing, that makes everyone look like a rock star, because you just get beautiful seams, beautiful intersections, and it really, it's such a soothing, wonderful craft. I love it so much, and I hope that you got some help today. And on behalf of Kari and I, we just want to thank you, our special friends, for being so encouraging back to us. And we're just thrilled to death that you're excited with the content that we're providing for you. Do like and subscribe the channel, and do like and subscribe Kari's channel as well if you like what you found here. We hope that if you have any questions, if you feel in the dark on any of those things, I want you to know that we are both available to you anytime. Do send us emails, send us a message on Messenger, and we'll do what we can to help you. And we hope that you get going and you're excited. I think the hardest thing that you should have at this point is which fabric you're going to use, because I think that you're now equipped with what you need to get going on your Grumpy Susan quilt. And so it's been a joy to be with you here today. I thank you so much, and I hope that you'll stop by again. But for now, I wish you many happy stitches. Bye-bye now, my friends.